Welcome back to DFC Books.
It's great to be here.
Today, we are undertaking a massive deep dive. We're going into one of the most foundational and frankly stunning texts to survive the Spanish conquest.
Absolutely.
This is a document that holds the cosmology, the history, the entire spiritual mandate of a people. We are talking about the Popol Vuh.
The sacred book of the Quiché Maya.
And for our discussion, we're leaning heavily on Alan J. Christensen's translation and commentary. It's just phenomenal. It really unlocks the layers for you.
It does. And you have to understand, when the Mayan nobility secretly transcribed this in the 16th century, they weren't just writing down stories.
Yeah.
They were preserving the uxogersai,
Which means?
the root ancient word.
Yeah.
You have to imagine it like this. Their entire world, their history, their identity, their government, their whole theology, it all grows like this towering essential plant from this one ancient root.
Wow.
So our goal for you today is to, synthesize that entire cycle. The myths, the incredible characters, the structure, and the history that defines the Quiché world.
And the history of the text itself is just, it's dramatic, almost a myth in its own right.
It really is.
I mean, we know the Spanish arrived and just systematically burned these massive libraries of hieroglyphic codices.
A complete attempt at cultural erasure.
Yeah.
It's a tragedy for the world, what we lost.
But the Maya nobility were, well, they were determined.
They took the Latin script the friars taught them and used it against them in a way. They secretly transcribed their own sacred books, and they kept them hidden for centuries.
200 years, right.
About that. It wasn't until the early 1700s that a Spanish priest, Francisco Ximenes, found the manuscript in Chichicastenango.
And what's amazing to me is that he noted the local people knew it almost by heart.
Exactly. This wasn't some dusty, forgotten relic. It was a living scripture. It was in their hearts and minds.
Which, right away, tells you everything about the spiritual weight they placed on the very concept of the word.
Yes. And we have to start there, really, if we want to get the depth of this. In the Quiché belief system, the word isn't passive. It's active.
What do you mean by that?
Well, the elders used a term, kastagizage, when talking about reading these ancient words. It translates to cause to have life.
To cause to have life.
Or to resurrect. The belief is that when you speak or read the words of the ancestors, their spirits literally return from the dead to speak again, right there with you.
So the act of reading is a ritual. It's a seance, in a way to make the ancestors present.
Precisely. And the sources say that even today, Maya shaman priests, the Ajgijab, will purify modern copies of these texts with copal incense.
Wow.
They ask forgiveness of the ancestors for disturbing them. They believe the reading makes the spirits of the progenitors manifest in the room. There's a profound reverence here.
So let's talk about the literary architecture of this text, because it's not simple prose, is it? It's highly poetic.
Oh, very much so. It follows specific forms that really reinforce their worldview. The most common one you'll see is the parallel couplet, or bicolon.
So that's repeating an idea over two lines.
Exactly. Sometimes it's identical parallelism, like sooty our mouths, sooty our faces.
Yeah.
The misery is just hammered home by the structure. Other times, the second line elaborates on the first.
And they use bigger structures, too, triplets, quatrains. I was really fascinated by what Christensen calls the envelope structure.
The envelope is beautiful. It gives this sense of closure and symmetry. You repeat an idea from the beginning of a section right at the very end. It wraps the whole thought up.
But the most complex one, the one that really shows the cosmic thinking, is the chiasm.
The chiasm, yeah. The ABC, CBA pattern. That crisscross structure.
And what's so incredible is not just that they use it, but why.
It reflects the cosmic order. The Quiché saw the entire cosmos, earth, sky, underworld as fundamentally structured and symmetric. So the text itself has to mirror that.
It's not just in a few lines either.
Not at all. A chiasm in the Popol Vuh can span a huge section. The entire account of the first creation is arranged in this massive, intricate chiastic pattern. The text itself becomes an act of cosmic creation.
Incredible. So who are the architects of this cosmos? Let's meet the deities, because they almost always act in pairs, in concert.
Right. We start with the practical ones, the framer and the shaper, IJ Tak, IJ Bit. They get the creative process started.
And then there's the pair associated with the primordial waters.
The regal pair, sovereign, or Tipu, and Quetzal serpent, Cucamonz.
Quetzal serpent is such a powerful concept.
It's an amazing synthesis. You have the celestial Quetzal bird sky, life, preciousness, and the terrestrial serpent for regeneration and the earth. This deity holds authority over all three layers of the cosmos.
So they conceptualize and enact, but who are the wise elders they consult?
That would be the senior pair, Ixmucain, the midwife, and Ixbeocock, the patriarch. They're the Theers, the diviners. They're the ones using maize and sayite grains to figure out the best way forward.
The ultimate consultant.
Exactly. Ixmucain is the blue-green plate, the earth, and Ixbeocock is the blue-green bowl, the sky.
But if we're looking for the prime mover, the principal deity who first conceives the idea, the one with the spark of creation.
That is the heart of sky, Huracan. He is the source of Kux, the vital spirit, the thought itself. While the others execute the plan, the sources are clear that Heart of Sky is the one who first imagines what is to be formed. His will is paramount.
So with that pantheon in place, we can get into the creation events. And what's so interesting is that it's a process of trial and error.
And they're all looking for one thing, one primary purpose for their creations.
Speak our names, worship us.
That's it. And they fail. 3 times.
So the first act is the creation of the earth itself.
Right. The world begins as just nothing. Stillness, silence, all covered by placid water. Heart of Sky, Sovereign, and Quetzal Serpent basically talk the world into existence.
No hammers, no tools.
No. Creation by thought and word. Through their spirit essence, their Newell.
And the first physical change is dramatic.
The dividing of the waters. The command is given. The water pulls back, and boom. Instantly, mountains rise up, cypress groves, pine forests. The whole landscape appears.
But that initial success leads very quickly to their first big failure. The creation of animals.
Yes, event 2. They give homes to the deer, the birds, pumas, jaguars, and they give them their purpose. Worship us.
But the animals just couldn't.
They couldn't. They squawked and roared and chattered, but it wasn't intelligent worship. They failed the covenant.
And the consequence for that failure is pretty brutal. It sets up a key distinction.
It does. The gods condemn them. Their only service, their only calling will be to have your flesh eaten. They are relegated to being food.
So having failed with animals, the gods go to the elders, right? To Ixmucain and Ixbeocock for divination.
Right, and this leads to the second attempt, the third event, the creation of wooden effigies.
This one seems like it almost worked.
It was so close. People were carved from wood. They looked human. They even multiplied, had sons and daughters. But they were hollow.
Spiritually hollow.
Completely. They lacked noble understanding or memory. They had no soul, no kuklanel, which means heartener.
So they just walked without purpose.
Exactly. They forgot their creators. The text says their hearts were cold and dry, and that spiritual void leads to this absolutely terrifying destruction event.
This isn't just a simple flood. The retribution is so poetic, so psychological.
It is. A black rain falls, and then their own possessions, the very things they abused, turn on them.
Your dogs, for instance.
Their dogs complain, "Why did you beat us? Why didn't you feed us properly? Now we shall eat you." And they start crushing their faces.
And their household tools.
The grinding stones, the metate, they rise up and grind the faces of the wooden people. The pots and griddles, which had been covered in soot and burned, they throw their owners into the fire.
Everything they fail to respect just rises up in vengeance.
Everything. They try to escape, but the world rejects them. Trees push them away. Houses collapse on them. Even the caves seal themselves shut.
They are utterly demolished. And there's a legacy to this failure, a permanent reminder.
There is. The spider monkeys in the forest. They are said to be the descendants of these wooden people, a punishment for their cold hearts and lack of respect.
So with creation on hold, the narrative shifts. We move into this pre-dawn mythic age where the world needs to be cleared of arrogance before the true sun can rise.
This is the age of the hero twins, Hunahpu and Xbalanque, and their first job is to deal with the sin of pride. Nimr-Azaj-Rib.
And the first great antagonist, the embodiment of this pride, is Seven Macaw.
Vukub-Kukrix. He exists in this dim world and he boasts, "I am the sun." He claims his flashy appearance, jeweled teeth, silver eyes, makes him the only way in light.
Right, which is the forbidden sin. You can't equate yourself with the divine.
And Heart of Sky notices. He commands the twins to take him down.
And they do it with trickery, not just brute force.
Pure cunning. First, they shoot him with a blowgun while he's eating, and they injure his jaw. Then they disguise themselves.
As an old grandmother and grandfather, healers.
Right. Village healers whose specialty is removing worms from teeth. And Seven Macaw is in agony, so he begs them for a cure.
But the cure is his undoing.
Of course. They tell him they have to remove his bejeweled teeth to cure him. And they replace them with simple white grains of maize.
And his silver eyes.
They remove those too. And since his entire power, his entire being was based on that external wealth and flashiness, once it's gone, he just dies. His pride was his life force.
But Seven Macaw had two sons who were just as arrogant.
And the twins had to deal with him too. First up is Apakna, the Earth Maker.
His boast was, I am the maker of the earth.
He was incredibly strong. He could carry mountains. And his first act in the story is against the 400 boys.
Ah, the 400 boys. Tell us about them, because they end up as something we can still see.
They do. So these 400 youths try to trick Zapakna. They get him to help carry a huge lintel for their hut. But their plan is to drop it in a deep pit and kill him.
He knows.
He anticipates it. He lets them think their trap worked, but while they're all celebrating and getting drunk, he just collapses the hut on them, kills all 400.
And they become a constellation.
Instantly. They become the Pleiades.
So how do the twins finally get Zapakna?
Another ingenious trap. They know his form is associated with a crocodile, and he's always hungry. So they create a fake giant crab, his favorite food, and place it deep inside a cave under a mountain.
Neon?
The mountain Neon. They challenge his strength, and of course his pride makes him take the bait. He goes into the cave to get the crab.
And he has to go in lying on his back, which is a crocodile's most vulnerable position.
Exactly. And the moment he's all the way in, the mountain just settles down onto his chest, crushing him, turning him to stone. His arrogance is literally buried.
And that leaves the final member of the family, Cabraca.
And the mountain shaker. His boast was even bigger. I am he who fells the sky and causes the earth to tumble down.
So, seismic power.
Right. And the twins approach him, pretending to be in awe. They trick him by telling him about a mountain they can't conquer. But on the way, they hunt a bird.
And they cook it for him, but they coat it with something.
They coat it with quicklime and earth. He devours it, and the contaminated food just saps all his strength. His arms and legs go weak. Then they just bind him up and bury him deep in the earth.
So with the arrogant false lords defeated, the stage is cleared for the twins' main event.
Avenging their fathers. This is a generational story. It all goes back to Xibalba, the underworld.
Their fathers, one Hunahpu and seven Hunahpu, were ball players.
Great ball players.
Yeah.
But their game was so loud, it annoyed the lords of the underworld, 1 death and 7 death.
Who sent their messengers, the 4 owls, to summon them?
And the fathers just fail miserably. They make one mistake after another. They show no divine cunning at all.
Like sitting on the hot bench.
Right. They think it's a seat of honor, but it's a scalding hot stone. And then there's the test of the torch and cigars.
They're told to return them intact in the morning?
But they use them up. They burn them all through the night. That simple failure seals their fate. They're sacrificed.
And the head of one Hunahpu is placed in a calabash tree, which is where the twins' story really begins, miraculously.
It's an incredible moment. Lady Blood Exquick, the daughter of an underworld lord, hears about this tree. She goes to it, and the skull of one Hunahpu spits saliva on her hand.
And that's the conception.
That's it. It's a core Maya belief. Bones and skulls are seeds. They are a source of new life and regeneration.
Her father is furious, of course. He orders her sacrificed.
He tells the owls to bring him her heart. But she persuades them. She tells them this wasn't a sin, it was a miracle. And instead of her heart, she gives them the red sap of the croton tree.
The dragon's blood tree.
Which congeals and looks just like a heart. The owls are tricked, and she escapes to the surface world.
Where she meets the grandmother, Exmucain, who is skeptical, to say the least.
Very skeptical. She tests her. She gives her an impossible task. Fill a whole net with maize from a single dry stalk.
But Lady Blood does it.
A miraculous multiplication of the maize proves her divine connection, and Exmucain finally accepts her.
So before the twins can go to Xibalba, they have one more piece of family business. They're jealous older half-brothers.
One Bance and one Chuen. They were the original artists, the writers, the flautists, and they were just filled with envy for the twins.
So the twins trick them.
They trick them into climbing a tall tree, and then they magically turn them into spider monkeys.
Which is the same kind of punishment we saw with the wooden people.
It is. A punishment for arrogance and jealousy. They become the patrons of artists and musicians, but they're ruined as people.
Okay, so the decks are cleared. The twins' ball playing also annoys the Death Lords. They get summoned, but this time, they're ready.
They've learned from their father's mistakes. They even plant maize ears in their house as a life token. If the maize withers, they're dead. If it grows, they're alive.
And the message from Xibalba gets to them in this hilarious relay race.
A louse is swallowed by a toad, which is swallowed by a snake, which is swallowed by a falcon. It's this beautiful little metaphor for life and death and rebirth.
And when they get to Xibalba, they immediately start outsmarting the lords.
Right away, they send a mosquito ahead to bite all the lords. When each lord yells out his name in pain, the twins memorize the hierarchy.
So they don't greet the wrong mannequin lords, and they don't have to sit on the hot bench.
Exactly. And with the torch and cigars, they don't light them.
No, they create an illusion.
A macaw feather for the flame of the torch, and fireflies for the glowing embers of the cigars. They return them perfectly intact, total mastery over the deceptions of the underworld.
And they survive all the deadly houses. The House of Darkness, Cold, Jaguars, Fire.
But the House of Bass is a real disaster.
It is. Hunahpu gets decapitated.
He foolishly sticks his head out to see if dawn is coming, and a death bat just slices it clean off. The lords of Xibalba put his head up on the ball court to use as the ball.
But Xbalanque is resourceful.
He summons all the animals for help, and the coyote brings him a chilacoyote squash.
And he carves a new head out of a squash.
An expert carving, and they use it to play the game, just long enough for Xbalanque to retrieve the real head and reattach it. Hunahpu is restored.
What's so amazing is that they know what's coming next, the pit oven.
They know it's a trap. So instead of being tricked, they take control. They prophesy their own deaths, and then they willingly leap into the furnace.
Why do that? Why give the Death Lords the satisfaction?
Because it's the ultimate act of control. Their power is beyond Xibalba's understanding of death. Their bones are ground up, scattered in a river, and 5 days later,
They reappear.
as these two poor wandering dancers, people fish, the chosen boys.
And they become entertainers for the Lords of Xibalba.
They perform these amazing dances, they sacrifice a dog and bring it back to life. Then, the main event, Xbalanque sacrifices Hunahpu and revives him.
And one death and seven death are so enthralled.
They demand the same performance. Sacrifice us, they say.
The twins pretend to be reluctant.
But they agree. And they sacrifice the two head lords of Xibalba. And here's the final, perfect trick.
They don't revive them.
They do not. The heads of the underworld are permanently destroyed.
And that victory, it's not just about revenge. It fundamentally changes the rules of the cosmos for the Quiché.
It does. They strip Xibalba of its power. The offerings they receive are reduced to junk broken pottery, dirty blood, but the most important thing is the moral judgment.
Right. They limit their power.
The twins declare that from now on, the Lords of Death will only have power over those who deserve it, those who have committed sins, violence, malicious acts.
So if you live a good life, Xibalba can't touch you in the same way.
It's a profound idea. Moral clarity becomes a form of spiritual protection. And this victory sets the moral stage for the final, successful creation.
The creation of true humanity, the Maize people. This is the core of the Quiché identity in the Popol Vuh.
It is. The other attempts failed because the material was wrong. Mud, wood. This time, the key ingredient is revealed by the animals,
Yellow and white maize.
found in the mountain Paxil. And that maize paste mixed with water becomes their flesh. The water becomes their blood. This is what makes them the Kwaswinak, the true people.
The first forefathers are created. Balaam Quiché, Balaam Makab, Mahukuta, and Ikibalam. But their creation is almost too successful.
It is. Initially, they are perfect. They have perfect vision, perfect knowledge. They can see and understand everything in the world instantly.
Which you'd think the gods would want. Right, that's what they were looking for, understanding.
It's a fascinating paradox. The creators find this level of human knowledge totally unacceptable. They say their knowledge will be equated with ours.
It's the sin of Seven Macaw all over again, the risk of arrogance.
Exactly. So to preserve the divine order, they limit human vision. They breathe a mist into their eyes so they can only see what is close. Their perfect knowledge is taken away.
And with that limitation, the historical part of the text begins, the journey from Tulan-Zoiva.
Yes, this long, arduous journey from the east. They're like refugees suffering from hunger, seeking legitimacy and power.
And during this journey, language divides them.
Right. All the nations, the Amak, had spoken one tongue in Tulan. But suddenly their speech changes. They can no longer understand each other. This is where the competition between nations really begins.
And the Quiché get their patron gods, Tohil, Ilix, and Hakavits.
And their gods give them the gift of fire. But this gift is the cornerstone of their power, and it comes with a huge moral price tag.
The fire deception.
This is the pivot of the whole historical section. A messenger from Xibalba, a bat-winged demon, gives them the terms. They can't share the fire with the other freezing nations unless those nations promise to give Tohil the breast beneath their shoulders.
And the other nations agree, thinking it's a metaphor for tribute or alliance.
They think it means nurture, political allegiance, but the Quiché know the double meaning. Tohil means it literally.
They are agreeing to be sacrificed. Heart extraction.
That's the deceptive price for warmth. It's the divine mandate for the Quiché Empire of Conquest. The sacrifices later are grimly called breast giving.
So before the sun finally rises, the progenitors prepare themselves.
They climb a mountain, they fast, they weep, they perform auto-sacrifice by pricking their own ears and elbows, and then they see it. First the morning star.
And then the sun, which appears like a person.
With unbearable heat. And in that instant of the first dawn, the three Quiché gods, Tohil, Ilix, and Hakavits, are turned to stone.
Petrified. Why? What does that signify?
It's the end of that mythic age of mutable walking gods. The New World Order has begun, and those stone effigies become the physical reminders of the divine contract the Quiché have made.
And their rise to power is immediate, justified by that contract.
Their gods demand it. Conquer all the nations, they must bring you their blood. So the Quichés begin these ritualized captures and sacrifices, sometimes disguised as jaguar attacks.
The other nations try to fight back, not just with war, but with seduction.
They send two beautiful maidens, Lady Lust and Lady Weeping, to try and entice the Quiché gods, but Tohil isn't moved.
Instead, he gives them a gift, the robes.
3 robes, painted with a jaguar, an eagle, and hornets and wasps.
And the lords of the other nations think these are tribute.
In their arrogance, yes. The lord who puts on the wasp robe is immediately stung all over, cries out, and the trick is revealed. This leads to the Great War.
A massive invasion against the Quiché.
Tens of thousands of warriors. But the Quichés don't fight with conventional weapons.
They use the insects.
4 huge gourds filled with hornets and wasps. They unleash them on the enemy army. The warriors are stung in their eyes, noses, mouths. They become totally disoriented, staggering like they're drunk. The Quichés win a purely divine victory.
This establishes their absolute sovereignty, which brings us to the final part of the text, the historical lineage.
Right. The progenitors die of old age, leaving behind this sacred bundle glory as a memorial. And then the text becomes a dynastic history, tracking 12 generations of lords.
And it's the 6th generation that really marks their peak.
The apex. Lord Krikab and his co-ruler Kawizima. This is when the Quiché go from a defensive citadel to a true conquering empire.
He's the one who truly fulfills Tohil's mandate.
He is. The text says he conquered major cities like Sajkabaha and Zakalu. His reign is the maximum fulfillment of the prophecy. The Maize people have achieved total dominion.
And then the text just ends so brutally, so abruptly.
In just a few lines, it speeds through to the 12th generation to the final lords, Oxubquia and Belhebsi, and their reign is ended by the arrival of the Spanish.
The text just states it flatly.
They were hung by the Castilian, Donatiu. And that's it. That's the end. The violent, sudden closing of the book on Quiché sovereignty.
What an unbelievable journey this text takes you on. From the void of creation, through 5 cycles, the fight against arrogance, the triumph of the hero twins, and then the entire history of a nation-state, from its founding to its fall.
It's a complete spiritual and political blueprint. It defines who they are, the Maize people, and it justifies their entire history of power and sacrifice, all stemming from that one dark deal for fire.
I keep coming back to that judgment the hero twins delivered on Xibalba. They didn't destroy the underworld, they just limited it.
That moral limitation is key. The Xibalbans can now only hold sway over those who have committed punishable offenses. Sin, violence, malice. They can't just inflict suffering on the righteous anymore.
So, if the powers of death and evil are only effective against those who are morally unclean, what does that tell you about how the Quiché saw the source of human suffering?
I think it places the burden squarely on us, on humanity. The blueprint of the Popol Vuh suggests that all this cosmic order, all this knowledge, can only protect you if you maintain respect, if you avoid arrogance, if you keep a warm heart.
Our own moral failings are what open the door.
Our failings create the entry point for the forces of chaos and death to come into our lives. It's not just history, it's a moral and spiritual guide.
A profound insight from a text transcribed centuries ago, but still feels incredibly relevant. Thank you for joining us as we explored the root ancient word of the Quiché Maya.